Everyone have great holidays and when you are done crying, if you would, please stand with me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. First of all, is there anything anyone wants to change on tonight's agenda, moving it around or anything?
I will make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second. Second, all in favor? Alright, call to the public. We do not have any cards for this evening. Thank you. Item 6 is the election of board president and vice president. Mr. Sherman.
So this is something that we do every 2, or we have done every 2 years, so you'll need to make the decision during a motion. If it's for 1 year, 2 year, traditionally or historically, it's always been for 2 years. And there's just a discussion amongst you all, and a motion is made by one person to basically see if another person wants to take on the role. We do president first, and then vice president after that.
And if I could just say something real quick on the term, just from personal experience, 2 years, you're just not getting comfortable. So personally, I think 1 year is just, still just don't know what you're doing after that. So if I have any influence on that, I would recommend the 2 years.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Cindy Thomas as president for 2 years. I pay attention to it.
No, you should have clarified that. Thank you.
I'll second that motion right away.
All in favor? No, yeah, motion on the floor, second, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you, I'm honored to serve with you all for another 2 years. All right, motion for a vice president. How do I make a motion for vice president? Anyone else have any other motions?
The way that I think it would work is you have to deal with the motion
Oh,
on the
that's
floor before there would need to be a second motion, but always discussion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, we have a motion and do we have a second? You were a second, right? Oh, no.
I would second myself.
All right, do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you. All in favor?
No.
Thank you. Now, a motion to see if we're going to go for 1 year or 2 years.
I believe that the motion was for a 2 year, and it was said in that motion that it was for 2 years. The only other thing is, and you can stay right where you're at, but historically, the president or the vice president's been on the right-hand side. So if you want to stay where you're at, you can, or you can move over to Cindy's right.
I'll say the traditional.
There we go.
Girls. The little kings in mind.
So you've got your picture taken today. They'll be updated in the hallway, so you know you'll be up in the hallway with your pictures and office if what.
Hey, guys.
I'm never going to have the orange. I'm having here.
Welcome to the left
The girls are always nice.
That's really good.
All right, thank you for everyone for having patience on that. Next up is item 7A, and we're going to be talking about our strategic planning process with a presentation by Julie.
No, I do want to say Julie is a former board member, president of ASA or ASBA.
I was president of ASBA at one point. Yeah.
Yes, and then once she did her service with ASBA, she became an employee of ASBA.
Yeah.
So she has been in your chair, so she knows where you are coming from, just so that you have that understanding.
Thank you. I've only been out of your chair for 12 days, so it's
Oh.
still fresh. I like to refer to myself now as a recovering school board member. You never quite get over it, I don't think. But thank you so much for having me. I am a leadership development manager for the Arizona School Boards Association, and have had 2 children go through Arizona Public Schools, and have 1 child who is a teacher. So my parents were both teachers, so I'm all about education. So I'm excited to be here tonight. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I forgot. I'm like this with my hand. You don't have a clicker in your hand. So happy to be here with you in Chino Valley. I had the opportunity to talk briefly with Ms. Thomas and Mr. Scholl about strategic planning, and I'm excited to present that to you today. So we'll go over a few things. I don't want to take a ton of your time because I know that you have a meeting and a long meeting ahead, but I wanted to kind of go through a whole what the point of a strategic plan is, what the stages are, what the anatomy of it would look like, just so you have a sense as you're discussing whether you're going to embark on this, whether it's something you have a baseline understanding about. And ASB will be happy to facilitate that process. So on the next slide, we have the purpose of the strategic plan. So we like to refer to the strategic plan as kind of the North Star for school districts. This is where you want to go. This is where you want to be. It's your roadmap to the goals that you set for yourself. So it can provide clarity, what is important to you as a board, as a district, and as a community. This is what brings us together. What brings you together? What are the forces that unite you? What are the issues that unite you? It gives you direction, and it gives you focus. And then it also allows you to have accountability for student success and making sure that students are achieving all that they can while they're in your system. So we go to the next one. Excuse me. Thank you. So one of the things that we would do right in the beginning is talk about your vision, mission, and your core values. So if those are defined, then and you want to stick with them, then we would go ahead and do that. If they need to be updated, we can talk about that. If you want to redo them completely, we can talk about that as well. But those, that's really the starting point of where we want to go. Then we'll go ahead and get some data that we can analyze and look at. And then data will play a huge role in the way that you look at what your areas of focus are. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of kind of what the strategic plan would look like, the anatomy of the strategic plan. So what we would do is we would use data that we would gather from the community, from internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, from your business community, from your faith communities, everybody who's involved in the education of students. And we would do a few things. One is we would find some areas of focus. And these are just examples that are up there. This does not have to be your areas of focus, but you could focus in on climate, culture, academic success, or student achievement, and have some areas that you want to focus on in the strategic plan. Then we would look at goals. So I put, a couple of very simple goals of recruit, entertain, effective teachers, improve student achievement. If you're going to write goals, they have to be SMART goals. So they would have to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. These are not SMART goals. These are just meant to give you kind of a sense of what I'm talking about. And then once you decide what your goals are, you would look at, okay, we have to have some objectives or tactics of the way we're going to get there. So if you're looking at the recruit and retain effective teachers, an objective might be create a new teacher mentor program. If you're looking at improving student achievement, you might implement professional learning communities. So there's different ways that you can do it. Then you would really get into the nitty gritty. What do we have to do to create this program? Or what do we have to do to implement this curriculum? So there's lots of things that you'll look at, the tasks are, and we'll look at who does those things as we go through the presentation. And then your job will be to look at the outcomes. You set some goals, you define your objectives, you had some tasks, where are you at? And so the board's job would then be to come back around, really frequently to say, okay, where are we at? How are we progressing? And what do we need to do from the board perspective to make this strategic plan successful? So let's look at the next slide where we kind of have this board authority and superintendent authority. So the board's authority is oversight. You're at that 30,000 foot level. You are doing expectations, you're setting parameters, you're providing structure for your employees and your students. Superintendent's authority is really that operational, the implementation of things. So we like this bracket because it kind of talks about adopting goals, policies, developing plans, implementing them, monitoring progress, and then evaluating results. And you'll see that dotted line in there and the two arrows. That's because there always should be communication between the board and the superintendent and the superintendent and the board. That's a two-way communication cycle. So, and that wouldn't change in a strategic plan. That would be the same. You would want to have constant communication back and forth. So sometimes, what does the board do? What does the administration do? So I wanted to kind of go through that with you as well in terms of the anatomy of the plan. So as far as the areas of focus, the board role is to identify those areas with administration. So that would be your superintendent, whatever cabinet level people you have, whoever your leadership is of the district. And the administration's role would be to provide that data and assist you with identifying those areas, those focus areas. And you'll want to have input from the people on the ground doing the work. So it won't just be your feedback, it will be feedback from your community and your staff, students. Students are a good way to also get really good feedback about what the strategic plan should look like. We find that we had students involved in one that I did when I was over board at Paradise Valley. Sometimes they would say stuff and be like, oh my gosh, that they really know what they're talking about. I would encourage that as well. Your goals, so the board role would be with administration to assist with the development of goals. And administration would be the board develop the goals. So the goal development really does, you would probably get a rough draft of what those goals might look like and then have some feedback and conversation between the board and administration on those goals. And that is that's one place, and our vision and mission is another place where students really have a huge impact when I was involved in this. So the objectives, the board's role in that, now we're getting to the point where you're kind of getting deeper, right? Getting closer to the work that needs to be done. So you would provide feedback on objectives. So your administration would go out to the employees, ask for objectives, given the goals that they have, and then you would give feedback on that. So the superintendent would bring you those objectives, and you might have some thoughts on that they might take back and utilize. The tasks that you have is really, that's where the board's not really that involved. This is operational, right? This is what we're doing in classrooms or in departments or in the school district every day. So you can provide feedback as needed and as is appropriate. But the administration's role is to make sure those tasks get done and make sure that they're completed. So whether that's superintendent or a principal or a director or an assistant superintendent, you can look at that. And then for outcomes, the board's job really is to review frequently the progress, the results, provide feedback, and then also look at resources. So if you have a goal and the feedback from your community is we don't have enough professional development in this particular area to make this goal reasonably attainable in the near future. The board can could then say, okay, let's look at what can we do from a policy perspective, from a budget perspective, to give the resources that are needed for your employees to be able to achieve the outcomes that you want them to achieve. And then the administration's role is to provide data on the progress, recommendations moving forward. That's where some of those recommendations might come for, what do we need to make this goal? What do we need to be effective? And so then on the next slide, we kind of put up some planning teams. And throughout the process, and you'll see in the next slide after this one, I'm not ready for yet, but where these teams come in. So the first team is a strategic oversight team, and that would be the board, superintendent, and whomever in the administration of the district, the superintendent would like to include, and the board would like to include. So smaller group, leadership, people who have influence and impact on policy and budget and all of those things. Then the core team, the superintendent, and other stakeholder representatives, whatever that looks like, whether it's students, whether it's your certified staff, your classified staff, it could be business members from the business community, your faith community, as I said before, parents. So there's lots of people that you can utilize in that stakeholder group to represent the group that they belong to. So that would be for guidance and communication and movement as you're going through the process. And then finally, the project teams, and this could be one person, it could be a small group, it might be a department, but their purpose would be to identify the tasks and complete them. So whatever you decide you need to do to get to your stated goal, these folks would be the ones who would help you figure out what that is, and then they would help accomplish that. So, yeah, of course.
When you said help accomplish that, you mean to accomplish a plan to accomplish that, not actually do
No,
it.
they would be doing it. Yeah,
Well,
so
actually
this could be a teacher who said, you're saying to them, we want to increase reading, BLA achievement levels by X percent. And so the teacher would say, okay, here's what I think I need to do with this
Well,
classroom.
this could be very, very specific, is what you're saying,
Yes,
rather
yes.
than a larger task.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is when we're really digging down into it. Once that happens, then we have that review period. So how's it gone? What have we done? How have we been able to up closer, to what we want to accomplish? So this is kind of a framework that we would follow to do the strategic plan. Pre-planning and phase one with the core team, that'll be similar tasks in there, but with different people. So you'll have, the board, the superintendent, and the superintendent's leadership team, kind of talking about lots of different things in there. But we would look at, you might do, you look at your vision, your mission, look for beliefs. You would do a SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, with both the oversight team and the core team, so that you get a much broader vision or view of what people think your opportunities are. And then we look at a lot of data in those places. What does your achievement levels look like? What does dropout rate look like? What is valuation? There are lots of things that we can pull data from both the state and federal level to give you an idea of where you want to go, where you are, and where you want to go. And then we would go to we do a portrait of a graduate. And if you look in your folder, I included two examples of portrait of a graduate in there. One is from Mesa Public Schools, and you can see it here. And this is what we want our students to look like when they leave our schools. We want them, here are the skills we want them to have, here's what we want them to be. So you have one from Mesa Public Schools, and you have one from PP, where this is the strategic plan I was involved in. So you can do it any way that you think this is where you get a sense of what do we want to accomplish, who is our student, and what do we want them to have in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, when they leave us and go out into the world. So we would work on that. Knowing who you want them to be then allows us to say, how do we get there? What are we going to do to get to that point? And so that would be part of the needs assessment. And that would be both core and project teams. We'd be looking at surveys, we would be looking at doing interviews, we could do focus groups, there's lots of different ways that we can get information in that needs assessment to decide what is identified by the community and by your groups that we want to work on. And then we work on goal development. We would identify objectives. You would adopt a plan, and in that, phase 6, you would be looking at, we would recommend you and help you with a communication plan around the strategic plan and an implementation timeline, so you can have some pretty tight dates and goals and targets as you go through it. And then you would send that off to your project teams and ask them to start aligning all the goals that you made and some of the objectives, deciding what the tasks are. And then finally, you would monitor the progress. So that would be the strategic team, the SOC team, I guess we're calling it, I don't know why we're calling it the oversight. I like oversight better. I might change. The oversight team would be looking at, okay, where are we, what are we doing, how are we moving forward, and what do we need to do? Do we need to change something? Do we need to stay on task? What does that look like? So, and then finally, I just wanted to kind of introduce you to the team of people on the next slide that will be working with you on this project. So myself, I would be the lead at ASBA with this. Ben Adams is a member services coordinator. He would be helping with things like focus groups and surveys and collating all this data, putting it in presentations that will help. And then Tracy Benson is our immediate boss. She's the associate executive of the association. So with that, on the next slide, I want to thank you, but I also want to see if you have any questions, anything that I can answer.
How soon can we start?
How soon can we start? You tell me. We're ready to go when you are. Yeah, so I think, and I don't know what the plan is, but I think you'll have to vote on how this is going to go down. But we're open to working with you through this process, whenever you decide to do.
I really like this. I specifically like this one because I feel like it's shortened, you know, and I think it gives people a perspective of what our goals are for the year.
How long generally do you think the process should take?
It's going to take at least a year, maybe a little bit longer, till we get through all of the process. But there'll be plenty to do along the way, not necessarily for you guys, but for the rest of the district administration. And after we're done, you'll really have a good idea of where you're going. And I can tell you that lots of districts that I've worked with use a strategic plan almost every time they meet. When they talk about things on their agenda, they say, okay, we're doing this because it's part of our plan. And here's where it's part of the plan. And we want to articulate for you the reason that we're spending this money, or the reason that we're adopting this program, or this curriculum, whatever it may be, or this position, right? You decide to make a position. So I think it really does give you a really good roadmap to get to where you can go.
So listen to teachers also.
Yes, they're probably not going to be thrilled about it. I mean, because it might be a little bit more work. But I think
them to become better teachers.
yeah, and I think it just gives them an idea of what the board's priorities are and what the district's goals are, and really is clear on how you're going to get there. So I know my daughter teaches in the district that I was on the board, and when she saw our strategic plan when it came out, she's like, "This is ridiculous." But now that it's sunk in for a year, she's like, "Oh no, I think about it when I'm thinking about, okay, what are we looking at? What is our school sites strategic plan based on what the district says. So I think it does give them some data that helps them. You know. From the left side, as Mike said.
Were you right in the perspective?
Which one are we facing?
We look right to
The right side.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I
Thank
know
you.
personally, I can't wait to get this started.
And my card is in your folder, so if there's any questions you have, please feel free to reach out. Okay, thank you.
Next is agenda item 7B, and we're going to get an update from HMS on counseling. What is this?
Hello, Madam President and members of the board. I am excited tonight to introduce you to our counselor, Miss Chrissy Nolan. She has been with us for 2 years. She has been with us for 2 years, and she has made such a difference with us. And we are able to help her due to the school safety grant. And so we are very pleased and blessed to do that. So I'm going to turn the time over to Chrissy. She's going to do a PowerPoint and walk you through her website and introduce herself to you.
Hi, thank you, Madam President, and the rest of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. Like she said, I'm Chrissy Nolan. I'm the school counselor at Heritage Middle School. This is my 22nd year in education, and my second year here at Heritage. So the first slide, this is from the American School Counselor Association, and this is what I follow, and this is what they say the role of a school counselor is. So school counselors help all students to apply academic achievement strategies, manage emotions, and apply, interpersonal skills. School counselors plan for post-secondary options that can be higher education, whether it be military, Navy, or even going straight to the workforce. And school counselors help students form healthy goals, mindsets, and behaviors. With the aid of a school counselor, students learn to develop effective collaboration and cooperation skills, to practice perseverance, to develop time management and study skills, and to learn self-motivation and self-direction. So we do all this kind of stuff. And my role at Heritage, I do all that fun stuff. And these are just some specific things that I wanted to share with you that I do with our students. So I provide short-term individual counseling sessions. Short-term means like 4 to 6 times. Generally, a teacher has referred a student to me, or a parent come up in a parent meeting. And if a student needs more than that, I would refer them out for more types of therapy. They do not provide those types of services. We do walk-in counseling. So as a teacher, might see that a student needs to just come to the break. Come see me, you can come right in and see me, you can also request to see me on a form, and I'll show you that to you on the counselor webpage. I also do something called restorative circles, which just is a fancy word for mediation. It's a little bit fancier than mediation, however, and we started those last year and have increased those this year. I collaborate with families and teachers, administrators, and the community. Those can be meetings as needed. I support teachers with classroom management strategies. I've done circles, again, restorative circles in classrooms with entire classrooms. Maybe something has happened in the classroom and we need to all build some community and feel better about the situation that's happening. So we've done those. And I also provide positive behavior strategies for our teachers who request them or need them. And I work with community. I provide advocacy for students at student-centered meetings. So I'm frequently at IEP meetings or any other type of meeting to discuss students. I am also the 504 coordinator. I also provide college and career lessons and support. Our students use My Future EZ, which is the Arizona Department of Education suggestion website that we use for students to kind of think about their futures. So we have those accounts, and we look at
college and career opportunities. We research different types of jobs, things like that. And in the middle school level, it's just at the very beginning. When they go to high school, they delve deeper into that, but at the beginning, we're just sort of kind of looking at ideas of what they can do when they finish school. I also plan to schedule assemblies to support healthy choices. This year, we've had 3 assemblies. The last one is coming up next month, but we've had a suicide prevention assembly. We've done a vaping assembly, and next month we have a cyber safety assembly. We've also done a cyber safety presentation for parents. And those assemblies are run by the Attorney General's office. So I partner with them and they come and they provide free tours. So next 2 slides are data, because we all love data, right? So this is my last year's school data. I had 255 walk-ins. That includes students that just walked in or requested to see me, and then I called them out of class. 283 individual counseling sessions, and we did 10 restorative circles. And next slide shows just this year's first semester data. We've already had 169 walk-ins in the busy first semester. 130 individual counseling sessions, and those are once a week, like I said, and they rotate. I rotate kids in out 4 to 6 weeks. So it changes, but I pick one day a week, and they have a set time they come to me. And if you see, we have more restorative circles. We've done 15 already this year. Because the word is out and the students enjoy it. Honestly, they have an opportunity to speak their mind and mediate a situation that may have happened that could have turned into something more. I have students now coming and asking for circles. Sometimes teachers ask for them, so that is growing, which I'm really pleased with. So the next slide, if you go ahead and click on the link, that is the Counselor Corner. You find this on the Heritage Middle School webpage. So the first screen shows my request to meet with Mrs. Nolan. There's 2 Google Forms. One on the left is for students. The students have access to this in their classrooms. They can also come in the library and they can fill that out. It comes right to me in an email. And then also it helps me collect my data because it goes, if you all know about Google Forms, it creates a spreadsheet right away. So I have all my data in here it's seen that day, so I don't have to remember if I forget to write it down. Also, parent and guardians can request to meet with me. Obviously, they can also call me. My email and my phone number is also on this page. But if they can also fill this out, I don't have as many parents that use this, but they're always welcome to fill it out. I'll get it emailed to me right away that they want to talk to me. I'll call them or email them. We don't have to go through everything, but at the top, I just have resources for families. I have advisory activities for teachers to do with students in advisory. There's lots of information, so anybody can go in here and gather and find information. So the next slide is my. Yes. Questions or comments?
I have a question. Are you full time?
Yes.
So you're 40 to 50?
Yep. Yep, all day, every day. Thank goodness. It would be, I would be able to do all of this work.
If I could characterize that program as one in which it seems to me to be very busy.
I'm very busy.
I'm not surprised. And so how many assistants do you have?
None.
And,
To see that one kind of good too.
and I'm wondering if you could comment on what might be your greatest challenges in providing that program, which I think is fantastic.
I
Which
would
was
say
described in an earlier slide.
Yeah.
What's maybe your greatest challenge?
time, absolutely time. And the massive number of students who need me. I'm fortunate that we have many caring staff members at Heritage Middle School who also support and help students. My office is in the library, so I do get some help and support in there. The behavior coach is in there, and so is the librarian, obviously. And if I'm not there, they provide a safe space for students to break things like that. But as second school counselor, the American School Counselor Association says that you should have one school counselor for 250 students. So we have what are we at? 500?
545.
Yeah, 545. So, but we do our best. And, I just, ask everybody to be patient and I'll get to them when I can. But it is sometimes overwhelming. But, other than that, it's such a wonderful, supportive staff and our kids are great and our families and our parents are fantastic. So I'm privileged to work there for sure.
Other than the word of mouth and being a little bit more prevalent, do you find that kids are struggling a little bit more, maybe more mental health type issues?
Yes. Definitely since COVID and shutdown, we've had, I have seen an increase in anxiety, depression, things like that in students. So for sure, it's been hard for students to come back and, be back kind of in the real world and at school. I think just our world in general is stressful. I have definitely seen mental health issues in young students for sure. Yeah. We need more support, we need more help in the schools, we need more out in the community, we just need, it's just always a need for everyone, really, honestly.
So I go back to my presentation kind of about just like girl drama and stuff like that, but I can't imagine adding social media on top of that with kids in middle school. You see a lot of problems.
The answer is yes. And that's where a lot of the circles come in. Our policy is to generally not get involved if something was done at home and, we contact parents and say, hey, this is going on Instagram. You might need to, check that out. But if it trickles into the school, which it does, I do offer those circles where we can sit and we talk about it. And I do also, in a lot of my college and career lessons, things like that, we talk about social media and the appropriate use of it and how you should be, the best way is to talk to someone first before you tweet it or Instagram it or Facebook it. But, we try our best to intervene and provide information. But there's certainly, social media does not help anything.
And with your college and career preparedness, do you partner with the ETS for the college?
I don't do any of that because it is middle school. So I haven't yet partnered with anybody to do those things. We just kind of touch on those sorts of things. But it certainly is a possibility. I could bring people in and do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Mostly I just go in and we talk. We get with my future AP accounts. I do lessons on just being a good person and handling stress and all those sorts of things to help you actually move forward in life.
Yeah, if I could follow up a little bit on the social media issue and what your comments might be on the effect on the development of our students at that particular age, especially.
It's those students who have those accounts, it really does affect them. They need to be monitored. Parents really need to know what they're on. Parents need to know the supports that these social medias have. A lot of them have ways to block, ways to report, ways to help your child maneuver the world of the social media. And I think that's so important for families to know, because I think some students just, here you go, here's your phone, Merry Christmas, or whatever, happy birthday, and then they're just sort of set free. And there are some at the middle school age and younger, they definitely need to have some boundaries set and know that it's not the end of the world. Something happens on social media that will pass, but it also is there forever. And you do need to be aware of the things that you put on there and that are said to you. So I think it's really important. I think, it's really in the hands of parents and guardians to, at this age, to monitor that and really pay close attention to what they're doing. Because if you're not, you have to be their friend. You have to know that they can make a big count, and you might not know that they're on that. As a parent or guardian, it's really important that you take that responsibility when you give them a computer or tablet or whatever it is they have to.
So do you think it has a negative effect on academic achievement?
I don't know. I don't know that I can say that.
What about the mental health of it?
Yes, definitely mental health.
Social?
Yes, definitely social. It can be a positive thing for academics. Use it the right way. We teach students how to use social media and the internet the appropriate way. It can be a wonderful resource, right? But definitely mental health, definitely social. In my day, we called on the phone, we talked face to face. There's a lot of kids who have relationships with other humans and they never have sleep. And that's something is not going to go away, right? We have to help support them and what that looks like.
I don't really know the answer to this, but how much parental support do you have in those situations? Or how much parental involvement do you see?
I think we have pretty great support at our school. In my experience, I think we have pretty good support. I know that when Miss Bryce has to call home because something has happened and let them know that the parents are responsive and will help their child, things like that. So, and I've had good experiences when I've called and talked to parents. So far, the ones that I've had to encounter, I've had pretty good support. I think there's just a lot of education that needs to go out there. More and more, I think some parents just don't realize it. So you tell them, hey, this is how they do it. What do you mean? So I think we just have to continue to educate.
We have parent meetings with training parents.
Yeah,
On what is,
absolutely.
their children can be assessed to.
Yeah, those are definitely all things that can be done. As a good counselor.
Yeah. I know. Anything else? Ms. Nolan, thank you so much again for your hard work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right, item 7C, Mr. Scholl, Superintendent's Report.
All right. The kickoff should be in there somewhere. There we go. Kick off with enrollments. We are up 38 ADM over last year. There's a chart on the second or third page that kind of shows you where we're at compared to the last few years. I anticipate we're going to kind of tick up again. It seems like after the new year we get changes in enrollment, and I think we just haven't expected those coming in yet. And so I anticipate that staying level or increasing a little bit. You can see that, and I put it on there, we're at day 76, so about 3/4 of the way to our 100th day, which is the benchmark for our ADM. Wanted to give a little bit of time. We had a quorum board at the ASBA meeting, so I just maybe a minute or two from each of you that went, and it was Mr. Fogel and Ms. Thomas and Ms. Hilborn that went to the ASBA. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to share about what you saw or experienced or
Sorry.
One of the breakout sessions that I went to was presented by our own Cindy Daniels, and it was about building partnerships in rural communities. We talked about the Education Foundation here in Chino Valley, which presented the Education Foundation. I knew everything she was talking about, and let me tell you, it was so engaging. It was the best session I went to. And I'm not just saying that, it really was. It was engaging, it was thoughtful, it was thought-provoking, and at the same time emotional. Things that I've heard, I've seen, I've listened to, I saw it in that setting, and it just made you go, oh my goodness. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for representing our school as well as you did.
I do want to say she's been asked to do that same presentation at there's a Rural Schools Association conference as well.
She should.
I would just add that Cindy, you were not a presenter, you were an educator. And that was what, how you were different than most everyone else. Yeah, not a good teacher. I couldn't tell. But yeah,
So I told Cindy yesterday that I welcomed her, I really appreciate it. She did, I've been a presenter, and she did a fantastic job. And she educated me. I've been with Chino 40 years, and I'm still learning. So, you know, about the role of community and our children living in a bigger, even Prescott, you know, they have more things available to our kids. Here, there isn't that much. I mean, we have these groups at church, we have sports and, you know, boys and girls clubs and that kind of thing, but there's more accessible in Prescott than it is here for our teenagers and so, but anyway, just
Any other sessions?
yes, I think I go there to be rejuvenated, sort of emotionally. And so the inspirational parts of the program, the gentleman on the last meeting, for instance, did it for me. Did that, did just that. So it was good in that sense. Yeah. And then I think spending time with the two of you was important. And then sort of building relationships with our board members and other people that are in the profession. I think that's how it's most useful to me.
I agree. It was nice to be able to just talk to like people and know that we're not the only ones struggling with X, or we're not the only ones that went through Y. And it was reaching very much so. I think I learned a lot. Good. I can't remember everything I learned, but you know, the different workshops and different speakers, you know, because this is all new to me. I felt like sometimes I felt like, well, maybe we're stepping into a new unknown area, but still I have a lot of expertise in other things, so I'm hoping that I can use that. So, thank you for giving us that.
Yeah. Projects update. So there's a list of 10 projects here. I want to just pick out a few. The teachers we're actually going to talk about later. The football field bathrooms are continuing. And so they've started and they're starting to get, you know, we have foundation, I think, gone in. And I saw some plumbing stubs out and all kinds of stuff going on with that. So that's exciting.
That is so exciting. I don't even know if you, I mean, if you had
So the
kids
knitting
that grow
games
up
there.
here, this is a big deal. Like, I want to go down there and take video and tell everybody what's happening.
We'll let you be the first one in.
It's a big deal.
Do we need to have a bathroom ribbon cutting?
I
Is that-
Yeah. Yeah, because they're going to gates and having to travel all the way around to get to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when they're great kids.
We do have, Cindy will sign a terms and conditions for a East Gym weatherization, which is basically kind of seal up the East Gym so that it doesn't leak. There's also some additional work. I think you guys are gonna close up the windows or change out the glass block and some other stuff. And then not on here, but kind of related to the district AC project, part of the AC project is to seal up the roofs. And because of the fire that we had at the high school, they had to separate out that building. But there's a roofing project that you also will sign for the weatherization, which is sealing up the roof at one of the buildings at the high school. So we can get that back to a condition that can be occupied. And then there's the other projects on there. Aggregate expenditure limit. I met with Senator Bennett and Representative Pingerelli, who are the respective chambers chairs of their education committees. And there was also an article in the Arizona Republic today that addressed this. I think that the general consensus is that it will pass last minute. So likely, last year it was the last week in April, or in February, sorry, has to be passed by March 1st. That seems to be the general consensus. We'll work to make sure that that happens, hopefully sooner rather than later. But again, and I was talking to somebody today about this, the aggregate expenditure limits the amount of money that all districts, not charters, just school districts, can spend, even though the money's in the account. It doesn't mean you don't get the money, it means you can't spend the money that you have in the account. And so that's what's unfortunate. There is also, I think, a positive move to try to put something on the 2024 ballot that would change that. That would be the earliest that it could happen. It has to go to the vote of the people. It's a change in the Constitution, unless there's a special election between now and then. So the idea is hopefully to kind of maybe do a waiver, and then at the same time do a fix. It would go as a referendum. But we're gonna have to go through this again next year, just because it's until it is fixed. That won't happen until November 20th.
Do they not realize this stressful?
I've made it clear that it's very stressful. It's not good for kids. It's not good for staff. When staff are worried about their jobs, they're not teaching to the ability that they could be teaching.
And it's not good for, like, the public,
For the
because
public,
there's
there's so much
people, there's negative
misinformation.
misinformation for uneducated.
That's been made clear to them. This is a political issue, and there's political capital as part of their vote, and that's kind of what I think is driving this. There was supposed to be a special session, a bunch of other stuff got piled onto it, and the special session didn't take place last November, December. All I can say is it's gonna be my job, it's gonna be other superintendent's jobs. The ASBA is part of this, the ASA, which is the school administrators. We're all gonna be working towards trying to get this taken care of, because it's not good for kids, it's not good for staff, it's not good for communities. We're the largest employer in Chino now. 300 paychecks go out on a bi-weekly basis. Imagine if you had to take $3 million out of the community, what that would do to the community. Or over $1 billion out of Arizona, what that would do to the economy. So, anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Any other questions on the expenditure?
We'll just keep up.
Keep you updated as best I can. I can say that, Governor Hobbs made it a priority for her, although she has no voting. It's all that, I think somebody said she could use her bully pulpit, but that's the extent of her involvement in this. This is strictly 2/3 majority vote in both the House and the Senate. Any other questions? Hiring teachers, just wanted to kind of let you know, we're getting into that hiring season. Cindy and I were supposed to go to the U of A job fair. We are waitlisted on that. We have 2 administrators going to the NAU job fair. We have 2 administrators going to the ADE job fair, which is in Phoenix, kind of takes over for the, I guess she doesn't have one. We send all the people to the Phoenix ADE job fair. So we're working hard. We have administrators that do a really good job in recruiting, and so that's already started. We've got openings. We anticipate openings. We'll talk about a plan that may create a lot of other openings, and so we're working on that as we go on. Capital lawsuit. I've been emailing y'all about some activity there. The lawsuit trial was supposed to start on Monday. 2 months ago, the plaintiffs, which the district is a plaintiff in that lawsuit, along with 3 other districts and some, we'll call them alphabet groups and education groups. 2 months ago, they filed, that plaintiff group filed a motion saying to delay the trial to allow the incoming governor or administration time to evaluate the lawsuit since they were a defendant. That was denied, so they were supposed to start Monday. Last week, Attorney General Mays did the same, almost identical motion that was approved. So now it's been delayed. There's a 45-day status conference that takes place in March to kind of identify things. Likely going to be a year out before anything happens. The idea is the governor's office, the administration has said, we may be able to take care of this without going to trial. So that may happen. We'll see what's going on. The school facilities board, which is one of the main kind of the I don't want to say culprits, but the main reasons why the lawsuit took place, is under the auspices of the governor. It's in the executive branch of the Arizona government. So the governor, can make changes as she sees fit, as long as it's legal. And so those changes may take place, and we'll kind of wait to see what goes on. But it's been on hold. Our attorneys feel that it's a good thing. And so we're just kind of going as is, and I don't have to testify with anything. Next, we have the calendar and a couple dates, and we'll talk about this. But please put on your calendar February 22nd and 23rd at 4:45. We will have the principal candidate dinners. One at the high school will be in the culinary arts room. The one at the middle school will be in the cafeteria.
Both of them at 4:45.
Yes, that's a Wednesday and Thursday. So if you want to meet you can meet the candidates other ways, but this is an opportunity for you to sit down. I know that a couple of you participated last year and got to sit down with the real principal candidates and kind of just get to know them a little bit.
So we got a free dinner out there.
And you'll get two free dinners this time, so.
Probably the
Wednesday,
same.
Thursday.
Hey, it was good dinner.
So just make sure you put that on your calendar, and there will be a community meet and greet afterwards. If you can't make dinner, there'll be an opportunity for you to participate in that from 6 to 7 at the respective libraries. That's all I have for my report.
Fantastic. Any questions for Mr. Chino this evening? We have anything discussed? Seeing none, we are going to move on to item 7D1, our financial reports. Mr. Livingston.
President Long, board. A quick look at the month end for December 31st of 2022, in the current fiscal year. Just the month end report. 50.4% of the year had gone, as far as days go. 46% of our operating fund is spent. That's a nice place to be. A lot better than 55% spent. Our capital fund at this point, 23% spent, and we've been bankrolling some money in our adjacent waste fund, 620, for a couple projects, including the teachers project and including the Del Rio parking paving project, the south end of Del Rio, so we haven't spent anything in that fund yet. Quick look at a couple of the funds. Any comments or questions on the operating fund or the capital fund?
John, what's the schedule on that Del Rio paving? I thought it was supposed to be done before winter set in.
Well, we did have a great question. We did have a slight window there back in October when the board awarded that. And between, you say, Mr. Sheriff, our facilities director is here, between some miscommunication between our contractor and the city and other changes in the weather, they've decided to look at spring break, I guess, March.
It's an architect, we design it, and that's what helps. You don't want to pay in this kind of weather. Yeah, wait
That's
till it warms
I was
up.
asking the question. So, is it under contract or still waiting for a date?
Still, it's under contract with the asphalt company, and we also have a contract for architect design.
Yes, but they will happen during spring break, period.
All goes well, yes. Weather.
No one's willing to make a guarantee, but that's the plan right now.
John, I had to say that.
I know.
And the planner has had his purchase order and his contract issued by the district and as a sub for the paving contractor for about a month now. And I have not got word that he's completed his work. Because there's quite a few little design issues, even though it's not a huge project.
Just straightforward project.
It's water issues. Yeah,
Is the outlet or what? Is there a storm drain there?
no, it's just that a lot of that water sheet flows off the property that's on the south side and goes over the road. And so they want us to be able to direct it properly
Away.
and away. And so that's where really the engineering is coming from. Is that
Yeah,
for the most part?
big key is we can't direct that water back to the city since it hits our property. We've got to do something.
So to be continued, but we'll definitely keep you updated as soon as that report's in. And then we hear from our paving contractor about what exactly the goal is. There's no questions on the operating fund and the capital. I'd like to take a look at the cash fund balances. There's 2 or 4 cash funds. It's a vertical page with about 6 columns on it. And all these are on a cash basis. Fund 500 and Fund 515. Our auditors had a meeting with us in October. They don't want us to use 515 anymore. It's called Civic Center. They want all that revenue. We get almost $3,000 a month, I think, for the cell tower revenue. And they want us to put all that in Fund 500. So it's actually going towards the benefit of having cell phone service. It's not quite like the PTO renting a building here. So we're going to close down Fund 515, and we've moved all that cash that was in there over to Fund 500. School plan, you can see that. 527 CASA. We have 2 tremendous grants. One with our preschool program from DPS at Territorial. They've got a little sister grant, I would call it, for CASA. It's, I think, the first is $7,000 per month for this year. I think that's the way it's going to go. We got the first payment, and then those CASA folks can use that for several different things. And that really supports our program.
CASA is is our Chino After School Advantage, which is our after school daycare.
This one's really, I think the little one, the $7,000 a month, is probably 1 year, and Territorial's had theirs for, I think, 2 years. Fund 691 is our building renewal grant fund, several projects, Cheryl mentioned, and with that, again, we always run that on a cash basis. We don't pay the contractors until the state with these approvals puts funds in our account. So I appreciate your support this time. Coming over here and signing those because they've got to have triple approvals. It's a pretty good contract, terms and conditions. They pay and we receive it. We'll usually take those. Any questions on the month-end report?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just so you know that we don't have an activity fund account, we'll do 2 next month.
Okay, no problem. Right, then item 8A through C is our consent agenda. Having not heard anything from it.
I move to accept the consent agenda as stated.
Oh, okay, you got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 9A is our K-5 literacy endorsement support, Ms. Daniels.
Okie dokie. So, recently, Arizona Department of Education and the State Board of Education determined that all K-5 teachers should have a literacy endorsement added to their certificate. The way to obtain that is through 2 separate 3-credit courses. One's about the science of reading and one's about literacy assessments, instruction, and things like that. So some of the teachers had that in the course of their preparation program. We have a few teachers that are being endorsed already. And new students graduating from universities will have the coursework. So we do have staff though, we went through and kind of did the highball on it, if everybody needed the 2 courses, because it's something that is required for them, and it benefits us. We're making a recommendation that if they take it through Yavapai College, that we, that the cost of the course, when they have a passing grade, will reimburse them, and the cost of any materials they need, textbook or something like that. We see it as a way to support them, encourage them. Yavapai is rolling out the first course online, and they're doing, I think twice in the semester that they've compressed it into like 3 weeks and 8 weeks, so it's a training of semester long things for folks. So, we wanted to come to you and ask for your approval for that. We see it as a way to support teachers. The students are a very wise investment in professional development on our part, increases their knowledge, skills, and therefore student achievement in reading. So this is all K-5 teachers.
And you're looking at upwards of about 60 teachers.
Yeah, what we're looking at is, we're thinking, at the most, like tuition costs, like going down, all that kind of stuff. But we're thinking like that's gonna cost about $24,000. That's the estimate.
This is an action item. Get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to reimburse teachers for tuition courses for the 2 required lowest reimbursement courses in the purpose of their teaching through Yavapai College.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item 9B, our hiring process for high school and middle school. I can't remember here.
So, we had a good conversation at Heritage this afternoon, going over the same information. We do have 2 principals that are, one's transferring and one is retiring, maybe transferring. We're hoping to keep her in some role, but that's up to her. She just spent 2 weeks in Mexico. I think that's what more likely a scenario, but, I told the staff, this is the most important job that me as a superintendent has, is to hire principals. And so we take it very seriously. Last year we got very lucky. We were able to hire Dr. Moody, and we're using the very similar or exact same process to go through the principal searches for the high school and middle school. And what that will involve is we'll have and I'll let Cindy describe what the committee looks like, but we'll have an interview committee that will do an interview process. I will be with the committee at the beginning of the process, like next week, but when they actually do the interviews, I will not be there. I do a one-on-one interview with the candidate, and typically that is in my truck. I drive around the community so that they understand what the community looks like from through the windshield. And we'll also do a school tour, so they'll be able to see the campus. There's kids around. They'll get kind of hopefully at least a cursory feel of what the atmosphere of the campus is like, and then they will go and we'll have after school. All the candidates will be in the library to do a staff meet and greet. We collect comment cards so the staff have input on that time that they spend with them. Hopefully you guys will be able to have dinner with them after that. Once dinner's over, then we'll go back to the library and do a community meeting. And that will all be publicized so that the community can come and meet potential candidates. So that's what the day looks like. I'm going to pass it off to Cindy, and she can share a little bit about the committee work.
So on Wednesday, the committee, the Chino High School Selection Committee, will be meeting here in the boardroom all day on Wednesday, and on Thursday, the Heritage Selection Committee will be meeting in the boardroom. So what I did was during break, I emailed Ms. Bryce and Ms. Wolf and asked them for some potential recommendations for the committee. And the committee is comprised of people who fill certain roles in their school environment. So it could be, it's like parents, we have parents on the committee. It could be classified employees, the principal's administrative assistant, since that's someone who works very closely with them. An assistant principal, if the assistant principal intends not to apply for either job. classified employees, so someone who has the perspective of our classified employees, certified employees, someone from special education. So in the high school's case, we have an additional role, which is someone to represent CTE, since that's such an important part of our campus. Ms. Wolf will be sitting in on the heritage process, so she sees some of the ways that we've done things as she begins to transition into her role as in HR. But anyway, that's the makeup of the committee, why they were designed that way on purpose. I'll participate, I facilitate what the committee does. So what we do is we start our day by talking about the good things at their campuses. So gives everybody a chance to kind of, even though they all know each other really well, gives people a chance to, break the ice and really start thinking about why they're proud of work where they work. And then we move into where would we like to see that particular school in 4 years? And so, and then I have that broken down into some very specific categories for them, like academics, school culture, the facilities, things like that. So we have some very specific things that we look at, so it's not just sort of a free-for-all on, where we want to be in 4 years, but it's really a guided process. Then the next thing that we do is we talk about, we review different leadership qualities, and we look at keywords in each of those descriptors for those qualities to determine which of those qualities will help the next administrator be able to realize those goals. So we're not just, when we, meet on interview day, we don't go, wow, that guy had a really cute bow tie, or whatever. And, but that we have certain things
Hey,
that.
words are words.
So we have certain things that we're looking for, so it's a precise process in order to help the people on the committee look for qualities in a candidate that will help them envision where the school's gonna go. The next thing that we have lunch there, and you'll know today, the next thing that we do though in the afternoon then is work on refining interview questions that will help us ferret out those characteristics. So we don't, well, it's nice to ask people what their hobbies are. Their hobby may or may not help us reach our goal as a campus. So that's a process that we undertake as the selection committee. One of the other things that I explain to folk and help them really absorb is that they're not making the decision. Because I want that weight off their shoulders as when you go back to your campus as a peer, you don't, like if we hire a dud, and everybody going, gosh, I can't believe that's who you picked, or whatever. Or you don't want dissension if all the committee couldn't agree, and because it's a sizable enough committee, you don't later on want people saying, well, I supported this person, or I really wanted this other person. So we make it clear for the culture and the positivity on the campus that they're making observations, they're making recommendations. So on the interview day, we'll take turns, round robbing, and that, whatever it is, and asking the questions. And then what we'll do is, after each interview, we have a chance to kind of process what we heard. And they have their questions, but they also have a guiding sheet for them as interviewers that lists those characteristics. So when they're listening to responses, they're recording this response fit this characteristic. So at the end of the day, they have a sheet with the names of the candidates. They can write their comments. There's an opportunity for them to rank order them. And then all the notes that they made, along with that sheet, will be handed off to Mr. Scholl. Now, it was interesting because they also have an opportunity to provide additional feedback based on the staff meet and greet and the community meet and greet. And I can tell you from experience, not just with Mr. Moody's interview process, but with lots of interview processes that I've read in the past, they learn different things about the people in that scenario, and we've encouraged them to write on cards. Maybe their impressions have changed a little bit because some people interview exceptionally well, but don't necessarily interact with staff very well, or there seems to be not much chemistry, or they lose the enthusiasm after the sales pitch, or whatever it may be. And so we also give them opportunity at the end of the staff meet and greet and at the end of the community meet and greet. We all get together again for a few minutes and say, is there anything more you would like to say? Is there anything you would like Mr. Scholl to know? Is there anything that you would like to report differently for us at this point? I've had people ask me, may I have my rank order sheet back? So I can change my rank order. Sure. If that's important to you and you feel strongly about that, absolutely. That's why the process exists. So that is the process that we'll undertake. And on January 17th, which is a week from Tuesday, it's less than a week now, right? Tuesday, the high school committee will convene. On Wednesday, the middle school committee will convene. And then at the end of February, so the 22nd, we'll interview for the high school. The 23rd, we'll interview for Heritage. So we're compressing it. And when I talked at Heritage today, I talked about why are we let's get this going, right? Part of it is if everybody thinks it's hard to find teachers, it's much, much harder to find administrators. I think if the climate in our country hasn't convinced people that nobody wants this job over the last 3 or 4 years, nothing's ever going to convince them of that, right? It's been hard times for administrators and governing board members and hard decisions and difficult things. And people think, and I didn't share this at Heritage, but I'll share it with you. One of the things that we have noted is as teacher pay has increased, it's closed the gap significantly between what administrators make and teachers make. Teachers work 148 days a year. Administrators work 33% more days. Some teachers have higher daily rates than administrators. They just make less annual salary because they work fewer days. And we have had people tell us internally who we think would be extremely viable candidates for our administrative jobs. You know what? With all the raises that we've had, I'm comfortable where I am financially, and my family life and my time is more important to me than pay. And so it's been one of the sort of unintended consequences of improved teacher pay. But that gap closing between administrator and teacher pay has driven far fewer candidates to administrative roles. So if that's a curiosity and something for you as individual board members to knock around in your heads as we roll forward with things like strategic planning. But the other part of that is that as we look at this, the timeline is compressed as well because we want an opportunity to kind of get first jump on the very best people, right? And we want to make those decisions and be able to offer contracts prior at the March board meeting because we intend to offer, as Mr. Scholl said, staff contracts, teaching contracts at that same meeting, and people like to know who they're going to work for. And so as a courtesy to staff, those things are all done, settled, and all that business. So to bring you up to speed, currently we've had 3 applicants. One standalone applicant for the high school, 1 applicant who applied for each campus, and another applicant who was a standalone for the middle school.
So 3 total?
Just a total of 3?
Total of 3. It's been posted for about a week and a half. But I would also tell you that people start feeling that out during Christmas break. And I anticipate that after a long weekend, people have time to put some time into applications over a long weekend. So I anticipate that we'll see some more application traffic, as next week wears on. So that's kind of an overview of the process. The planning day, those 2 days that we'll have next week, the high school and one with Heritage, those are really, really fun days. Because you get an opportunity to talk about all the stuff at your campus, but the people who are recommended and who are committed to the process are also people who tend to have their pulse on what's going on, and they're people who we believe will have longevity. So they'll be here over the course of the administration, or they're people who have been here for a while and sort of have that longitudinal view of their campus. So those are some of the things, and they get a strong caution and admonishment from me, try to use my best mom face. And that while they'll know who the candidates are ahead of time, they are not to research them in any way, shape, or form. That's the purpose of the interview. That's the purpose of the materials the person submits. We leave it to Mr. Scholl to cyberstalk the people and learn more about them. Because a lot of times what people might find in their attempt to research folk isn't a balanced perspective of who the person is.
I do also want to add that, I gave this warning to this heritage staff today, that I look at the recommendation of the committee, I look at the comment cards from the staff, I look at the comment cards from the meet and greet, the public meet and greet. I know when we were interviewing for the Del Rio principalship, the administrators at the meet and greet were kind of huddled, and we were having a discussion on what their opinions were. And so I take that into consideration. But just because I didn't pick who they wanted doesn't mean I didn't hear them. I'm very careful about taking everyone's input into consideration. Along with my own, I'm going to spend an hour with the person one-on-one, and I have to decide what's best for the school district, what's best for the school, and what's best for the students and the staff. And so it may or may not agree with what a particular person wants, but I need to caution them that they have been heard. I've made sure to consider every bit of information.
And we're not just doing one, we're doing two.
We're doing two. And so it's we're just trying to maybe, when I say combine, like you said, we have one candidate that's going to have to interview 2 full days. They're going to have that same process twice. Right. If they can make the cut, they'll be going through that process 2 days as well.
2 different groups.
2 different groups. Yeah. So.
Do you have any limit on the number of candidates that will be interviewed?
I would,
We have slots for 4.
For any,
For each campus, we have predetermined time slots for 4 at each. And it was not hard when we did the search for Del Rio to winnow the applicant pool to 4 strong candidates, and then 1 accepted another position prior to the interview process. So we lost 1 before we even.
Have 2 open slots.
So it was fun. So we were not too bad. We were. And then.
yeah, what you did.
Thank you for explaining that.
You're welcome.
Look forward to the outcome. Item 9C is staffing proposal for school year 2023 and 2024.
all right, so if you recall, the state legislature did not establish a budget until June of last year. That didn't give us a whole lot of time to plan for the new school year. We were able to give some raises, and we were very conservative in the amount of raises that we gave. Again, not knowing how we were going to be impacted. So we've had some time to evaluate, and we believe that there's about $1.2 million right now that it's outside of the reports that are in here, but encumbered for this plan. And so what I want to do is present this plan to you. I also want to take it in the end of the month, take it to SEAC and get some employee input, and then come back in February for you to approve either this plan or something similar on how to best allocate that money. Okay. So if you turn to there's a spread, it's a spreadsheet. Some of this money you've already allocated. You've already hired a maintenance 1 and a maintenance 2, and that was for us to complete our own construction projects, like the bathroom, right? Also, a lot of those projects on that list, there was 10 projects, half of them were projects that would be completed by this staff. You did 4 permanent sub positions already. By the way, that is kudos from the principals. Could not say enough about those
Thank you.
positions.
That is awesome. So much.
That has had an immediate impact, which is, I'm glad it did, and that's the whole purpose for that. There's gonna be a couple positions, actually 4 positions, but 2 groups of positions that we'll talk about next, and then that you may or choose to approve or not to approve. And so that's on there as well, which is security guards, which we discussed at our October meeting about the need for security guards. And we'll also share with you the need for English language admin support, and why we think we need that. So 3 of these groups you've already approved, 2 more you will. That would be for the remainder of the school year, what would happen there. That's about $240,000. Okay. What we're proposing for next year is to maintain those positions. You've already approved an HR position, an HR director position. So that's also would be part of that. So it's the maintenance 1, 2, HR, permanent subs, continue with the security, continue with the EL support, along with 17 teachers. Okay. That comes out to be about 1.7 million. I put some minimum raises that we would include in there, and that's about $2.4 million. Between what we have, what we would carry over, and what we anticipate we would get for next year, that is sustainable. So that's not something that I'm concerned about paying. This is on top of the 8 teachers that we currently have in ESSER. We've already accounted for them. That's outside of these positions.
Does ESSER funding continue into next year, John?
Yes.
So we have 1 more year of ESSER.
We have 1 more year of ESSER 3. We have to have ESSER 2 spent, but ESSER 3, which was the largest of the 3 pots, we can continue through September of 24. I've kind of directed staff that we want to be done by June of 24, so that we can kind of clean things up and have it done by September.
Good. I'm glad we've got 1 more.
Yeah. So what are we going to do with 17 teachers? If you flip the page, kind of tells you a little bit about what I'd like to propose. At our elementary schools, what I'd like to propose is a PE teacher in each school.
Do we have that?
No.
Okay.
We have had PE teachers, but it's been many, many years. Prior to the recession, that was one of the cuts that we made at the recession. Okay. One of the things that we did as a result of the recession was we cut preps at the middle school and high school. Our middle school and high school teachers teach 6 classes, which is 20% more than what is the industry standard. These 12 teachers, 5 at Heritage and 7 at the high school, would bring back those preps for those teachers. Now, and this is something that we discussed, we've been discussing for a while. Are we going to be able to find 12 teachers? That's another question. We want to throw out there to existing staff, if you want to teach 6 periods, and that's your choice to do that. We're not going to force you to do that. But if you choose to teach 6 periods, we'll give you a 20% bump on your contract. 20% more work. But the key to that is it has to be in multiples of 5.
Right.
One teacher is 5 periods. So you got to fill up those 5 periods in order for that to be most effective. So it could be a combination. It could, for the high school, I'm just throwing things out. It could be 12, or it would be 15 sections and 4 teachers. So 15 overloads and 4 teachers would make up your 7 teachers. Or it could be 5 overloads and 6 teachers. I don't care what that, this is really left at the sites, for the sites to determine. And because if they don't get the overloads, they're gonna have to find the teachers. That's for kind of what it is also. And they have the most intimate knowledge of what their school needs and how to, although we never want to be experts in schedules, we become experts in schedules and how to schedule that as well. Okay. So that would bring back, now the PE teachers would also bring back a prep at the elementary school. And they also have library and computers. So those are already in place. So that's 12 plus the 2 PE teachers is 14. we have, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about the EL administrative assistant. Our EL, our English language learners, we are being inundated. And we currently have an EL teacher that's being shared by Del Rio and Heritage. We have an EL teacher that is doing two jobs, teacher and EL coordinator at the high school. And then we also have an EL aide, not a teacher, that is supporting territory.
Why? Why are our numbers so high right
Not to get political, but there's a border crisis.
now? I just didn't know how long.
I don't know.
Well, it's a reasonable question. We have a significant number of unaccompanied minors at the high school. High school seems to have a huge impact right now. And that's unfortunate because we have the least amount of time with those kids.
Unaccompanied?
Unaccompanied.
Yeah.
They come up and they live with maybe a relative that's already here.
And something.
Right.
We have 49 students at the high school who don't speak any English. The majority of whom did not cross the border with a parental care. And we have quite a few at the middle school as well. We've inquired among the students who are here, are there others in your family who are waiting to come? Yes. They already have identified who's next. And why aren't they here now? There's nowhere for them to live. So we're at a very, very critical.
It's just Chino Valley, it's the county, we have communities around us.
That's the whole state.
So what we'd like to do is have a teacher at each campus. So we would add 2 EL teachers. The high school the middle school would have a new one. The one that's currently serving Del Rio and the middle school would be full-time at the middle school. Del Rio, thank you, Del Rio. Then we have a teacher at Territorial. And then we'll talk a little bit, again, later, we want to add an EL admin assistant to help support the EL teacher / EL coordinator that's currently serving the high school. We think the administrative assistant could do that. So provide some student support, supply some administrative support. Some of that administrative duties are being done by Carolyn Reeder, who we're going to lose. So that would take up some of what Carolyn's doing on the administrative side. But so that's, besides the politics, we need to educate these kids. And we are being rated on our education of these kids. And in a couple of schools, we are told that we're not doing the job that we need to be doing with these kids. So this is a plan that we want to put in place to address that.
I'd like to add that our students that we're getting at unaccompanied especially are great kids. Like, not behavioral problems, not academic, but the kids are very promising students, bright, eager to learn, doing well, hungry to learn and to be here. And so that is one of the reasons for the increased demand on Rosa Maria, who is teaching our students, because they want to learn. They seek her out all day long.
You said they want to learn English.
Yes.
That's great.
And we, if you later decide to approve the EL admin support position, a paraprofessional, secretary too, we have somebody identified in there. It's a former Chino Valley grad, speaks Spanish, is a great example for these kids of what can be accomplished. And so we have people in place that are kind of connecting with these kids. And we want to continue that because that's going to be the best way to get them to where they need to be English-wise.
Mr. Schultz talking about positions. And we'd like you to know that one of the things that we are really pushing for in our hires is the capacity to speak Spanish. Because over 1/3 of our student population come from Spanish-speaking homes, and we need staff who can also speak Spanish.
So we've talked about
33%,
Over
over 33%.
about 37.
Spanish-speaking homes. Doesn't mean that the kids don't speak English, it's just the Spanish-speaking homes.
So my question is that adequate? Is the proposal adequate?
We
I have,
had that discussion.
this is, quite frankly, this is one of the reasons I've sort of pressed for a strategic plan. Because of this particular population and whether or not, are we serving it well? And I would, over 33%. Yeah.
So one of
I've
the
been
things
talking to
that's,
people about, I thought we were at like 25%.
So we have about 37% of our students come from Spanish-speaking homes, and about 7% of our students do not speak English right now.
7,
About 7% of the entire student population.
0 English. Yeah.
0.
so the answer to your question is there's other things that we're doing outside of this. And part of that could be, I know that both at the high school and the middle school, they're looking for teachers that could teach subject matter in Spanish. Mostly, I think at the middle school, they've identified a math teacher and science teacher that would teach those subjects in Spanish. We don't want the language to be the hindrance. They'll have other instruction to teach them how to speak English, but this way they're not falling behind on the content material because of a lack of understanding of that. And I think they're trying to do something similar at the high school as well. So that's in addition to what's going on, we're trying to identify that as well.
I think that,
To answer to your question too, we had, in December, all of the administrators got together with Spanish-speaking parents who were there by invite. And we had interpreters present, and we had cherry-picked students who we believe are the most likely to pass the proficiency exam in English that will be administered in February. And we've invited those students to come to a special test prep boot camp for 4 Fridays between now and the examination. So we have teachers, we have parapro staff, and then we had the parents come so we could explain, this is why we invited your kid. This is what we're going to be doing during that time. Transportation's provided, we have meals provided, and these are the things, this is why your kid was invited to attend this, because we believe your kid has a great capacity to become proficient. When they demonstrate proficiency, that's sort of a loose use of the term, right? Still need a lot of support. When they demonstrate proficiency though, it opens other doors for them, right? More elective courses, things like that. And then we're in the process of planning with the college a tour at the CTEC facility in Spanish for Spanish-speaking families, so they can see if your kids become proficient and really turn themselves toward learning English, when they're in high school, they're going to have all of these other opportunities that language is a barrier for. So we're trying to do some things to motivate and excite the parents, because parents are here because they want a better life for their kids. They need to understand all the reasons why learning English enables that better life to happen. As you know, you do not need to speak English to live in Chino. You can do every single thing you need to do in Spanish.
And the answer to your question, Mike, is I don't know if this is enough.
yeah, right.
But I think I wanted to make sure that we shared other things that we were doing outside of this, because we are trying to be proactive. We're trying to be. We recognize the need. We're trying to be proactive. We've identified some strategies, and this is where we think that we could, with the resources that we have, that we could put towards that issue.
I think it's very clear.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
and I appreciate that,
What if we
what
couldn't,
you're,
what if we couldn't afford this? If we couldn't afford it another year, should we? We aren't we fortunate that we're able to even do this?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm like, well, what would happen if we couldn't do this?
It's kind of that weird catch-22, Amy, where we get more income because we have more kids.
Right?
But then the kids need very, very specific kinds of support.
They more cost per kid because the other services that
Yeah, it costs us more.
Okay.
But by the same token, I am excited that we have staff that sees the vision. We had a meeting at the end of the first day or first week of school with the high school staff, and we called it impromptu because all of a sudden the teachers were like, I got all these kids in my class who don't speak English and I don't know what to do. And so, like, not kidding, at the end of the day, at the end of the first week of school, when everybody's tired and just wants to go home, we had, 30 teachers show up to the library.
Right. We'll talk about
We'll talk about it, all we can do, which tells me the staff is coming.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Fortunately, the younger kids, they pick up on the language very easily. The older kids, after they're 12 years old, it's harder for them to learn English. It's just the way our brain works. And I had classrooms where half the kids could not speak English. And I had a parent mad because a child in the class went home and saying some Spanish words instead of learning his ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. The father came in. And I said, well, he's just not where he should be on the ABCs yet, but he's on home speaking Spanish ones. And his dad says, we live in America and we speak English. And I thought he was really, just single-minded tunnel brain, that he couldn't even see that his child was actually learning something great about another culture.
Fortunately, we have some really awesome kids, some really awesome staff, and first step for staff and recommendations.
Mhm.
First step.
Yeah, exactly, nice. So could you comment on the numbers of those students you projected that could become proficient? Where we,
This year.
yeah, I mean, you've identified a group, is it a really small group, medium, or
Small.
less than 10% of the total population, or?
About 15%
About
of the total Spanish speaking population. And we know a few of the kids we invited we know won't pass in all likelihood because they are brand newbies. Like, we have a couple of middle school kids who we don't think will pass the first time, but they're so hungry to learn English. So to give you that example, they asked for one of our take-home Chromebooks and Wi-Fi so they can do the online language learning lessons that we do with kids on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. So we don't think they're quite there yet, but we've invited some kids who also just are so hungry for it that they would think it'll help them as well.
Any other comments?
I've got one more position.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, one of the things, and actually, I asked our HR coordinator, it was actually a request from Cindy that I followed through on, that to identify our staff that are not traditionally certified. So traditionally certified means they get typically they would get an education degree as a bachelor of art degree, sometimes another emphasis. As part of their bachelor's degree, they would do their student teaching. They graduate college, they have a certificate, they go off and become a teacher someplace. This, we have people that don't have degrees yet. We have people that have degrees, never done any kind of education classes. We have people, we have a spectrum of people in the middle. And when you have a bachelor's degree, there's an alternative pathway to certification, and you never do student teaching. We put you in the classroom and you're doing work that first day, never having an education. So we have a significant number. It seems like, excuse me, it seems like we have more and more every year because there's teacher shortage. It's either that or we have no one in the classroom. So we currently have 4 instructional coaches, one at each campus. I'm sorry, we have 4 half-time instructional coaches, one at each campus. And what we're proposing is to add an additional full-time instructional coach, and their job would be to help those that are not traditionally certified. So that would be their focus, is those new staff members that have never had any kind of education class. A lot of the times the content is typically not the issue.
Right.
It's classroom management. It's planning. It's all those other things other than the content. And so this person would help that on a more intensive basis than our current instructional coaches can do. Would help those that are not traditionally served.
So one for each of the units
This is one person.
to be shared for all.
Yes.
And that frees up the, right, the
Yeah,
instructional
yeah, yeah.
coaches on campus to work with traditionally trained teachers and other staff. Because what we've learned is the non-traditionally trained people beat up all the time.
And there may be, there are going to be people that are coming in alternative pathways that are fantastic teachers that just come back. They're gonna need very little time. And then we have people that come in and struggle from day one.
Higher levels of attrition from our non-traditional certified staff than we do on our traditional trained staff.
And so we, if we're gonna invest in staff, we wanna make sure we keep them, and this is another way to help ensure. So again, this is just an opportunity for you to discuss this, to think about it. If you have questions during the next month that you want to ask me or come see me or email me, please feel free to do that. This will go to SEAC towards the end of the month, and then we will, I'll bring back any comments they have to you. And hopefully, it might be a revised plan. It may not be, we'll find out in February, and then hopefully we approve something in February.
Item 90 is the addition of the secretary to positions.
We feel this is needed now. And so this is one step to get us there. It's a classified employee. Again, we think we've identified somebody, a former graduate that speaks Spanish, to do this. And so we had the discussion. I don't know if there's any further questions that you may have regarding this position.
What if we see a slowdown? I mean, would this be continuing position?
We are constantly evaluating our positions. Very few times have we had a program, our special ed is going up, our EL is going up. It seems like we have more and more specialized needs. But we would constantly evaluate what we need, and we can adjust on in this position on the fly. It's not, it's not a contract position. So if the need goes away, if for some reason the ADE says you don't need to have all these reports, we could easily, adjust as necessary. It's wishful thinking, but, as an example, so any position is subject to review when conditions change, not just this one.
All right, I'll make a motion. Yes. I'll make a motion to approve the secretary to position to second.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Moving right along. Item 9B, addition of 3 security organizations.
We had this discussion in October about the need for this. One, and Julie's not here, but I did want to share an incident or a story that she had that kind of reflects what kind of impact this can have. So we do not have a fire alarm at Heritage. That struck by it. And we're trying to get that replaced by our insurance company. So the fire department asks that we have a fire watch, which is somebody that walks around and watches for fires. Literally. Every day while students are on campus, we have somebody on campus walking around with a vest and a radio, and they are looking for fires. Yeah. Because we don't have a fire alarm. And this is the fire department requires us to do.
So do we pay this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So one of the things that they do is they also pop into bathrooms. They also pop into places that, may not be seen all the time by people. And and Dan, you can verify this. It seems to cut down the number of incidences that are taking place in these places when there's somebody actually looking. And that's what the hope that we're going to have with these security guards, that they just provide an additional presence to help alleviate some of the student behaviors on campus. And in addition, some of the adult behaviors. Right now, they will not be armed, but I think that's a discussion that, you all need to have at some point in the near future. And that maybe is part of the strategic plan, I don't know. But that is a possibility, but it has not been approved right now.
And so, we will still have our police officer before, so this kind of gives him more time to stay on. Okay.
Well, we haven't, the police department provides a student resource officer. It's actually, they're housed at the middle school.
Oh.
So this Officer Kinsey is at the middle school. Actually, I saw him parked outside the high school today, but he serves actually all 4 schools. And so and I do want to, I'll say this on the record, I appreciate what the police department does for the school district. This is at no cost to us. The police department provides him as a service to the district and maybe as a service to themselves because they have one person that is addressing all the kid issues. He's making great relationship with kids, great relationships with parents, and it's paying off. But we would still maintain that, but that's always at the pleasure of the police department. But everything that we are hearing is that would continue.
So you don't think we need security?
We have it.
We do.
We currently already have it's Glenn Coster is his name. Yeah, we currently have a security officer at the high school, so this would be just one additional security officer.
One pop in the girls' bathroom?
I think that's what Heidi's job is.
That's my job.
Oh.
And I get, 2 of the office ladies, if I'm not available to do my copying, and we have 3 of us who are taking on that challenge.
I mean, I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy that this is coming in front of us. I feel like after our October meeting, it was something that we all really pushing for wanting.
Okay, this would be immediate.
Yeah.
Then you have 2 numbers there, how much it would cost this year, what it would cost next year, so.
Any other comments or questions? I just want to say, I'm not happy about this. I see the need, I'm glad we're doing it, I'm not happy at all. I don't,
Is that something we thought we would see?
never,
Yeah.
never,
That's part of the world today.
yes.
But it's better to be prepared than.
I'm not arguing that, I just,
It's unfortunate.
It is.
yes, it is.
Okay.
This is an action item, we've got a further discussion if we could. have a
I will
motion.
make it the motion to approve 2 security guard positions, one for tech, one for Del Rio, one for Touch.
Thank you. Second on the floor, all in favor? Aye. Thank you much. Item 9F is our personnel report with supplement.
I have a question on this one.
Okay,
In the supplement to his resignation letter, stating he didn't have something that was needed. Now, is that something that was up to him and he never got it done?
the certification.
Okay.
All we asked for him was to apply. I
And
didn't get his certification.
so he didn't even apply for it? Okay.
And, we have access to the APE database. We looked. He was given notice prior to the break, I believe. And we don't necessarily know all the details. Not that we need to know the details. We're managing. It's a hardship to the middle school
Yeah.
that they're managing, but not necessarily. It's not good for kids, but that's, you don't have much of a choice.
I do have another one.
Yes,
Number 3 on the
Yes.
supplement. I'm super bummed about that.
you're not the only one.
And I know that, and I have to tell you, I'm disappointed too, because I feel like we've approved things because we knew that you have it in. And so when I saw your name on there, I'm pretty bummed that to see it.
I do want to say that, she has a great opportunity. I don't think that she's going to get rid of us 100%. She's going to be involved in some way with us, just not in that position. So, we're thankful for whatever she can give us because, I am excited for her. She has an opportunity that she could not pass up, that she did not seek, just kind of fell into her lap. But I appreciate what she's done for us and Like I said, she's not getting rid of us.
I'm glad to hear.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
There's a supplement, so make sure that the supplement is reviewed as well, please.
Seeing none, if we could get a motion for approval of tonight's personnel report and supplement.
I will make a motion for approval of tonight's personnel report with the supplement.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Item 10A, contract award following issuance of RFP for construction services for staff house construction project. Mr. Briggs.
Okay, I got a flash from Dennis' eyes over there, so ready to go.
Go right ahead.
So we've hopefully you've been able to review this. And to summarize, we've discussed this since, I believe, probably June, that we were looking for some staff housing. In September, we put a publication out in the local paper and we had 7 different contractors show up. Chris Sheriff and myself and our procurement person met in here with 2 different groups, October 5th and 4th, and had meetings, let them know everything we were looking at. There were a lot of questions. We pointed them to Chino, we pointed them to county planning. We've had multiple meetings. We realized that we were diverging just a little bit with the definition of public land that did come up, and we have since resolved that. We did get a document from the city saying this is what we're looking for, 9 different items. It does resemble more of a subdivision status installation if you go ahead with it. And these before I show you these maps, we have little pictorial architectural layouts here. We did delay this based on these discussions we were having from October 31st, original due date, to November 17th, and then again to December 15th. We opened the bids, and there were only 2 respondents. We hope there were 4. Of the 2, one was unable to put in a bid bond with Arizona School of Construction. If you've got a $2 million project, you better have a $200,000 bid bond or check to take care of the place of that. Only 1 had that, so that left us with 1 qualified applicant. And it's an applicant that you've probably heard of. It's a brand new company nationwide. It's head office in Vegas. Mr. Scholl's been to one of the buildings that they actually erected. It's 20 feet by 20 feet by 9 feet high. And it would fit in our place over here. We had several discussions with them. Anything you'd like to add at this point, Chris?
I have actually, Lawrence, if you want to run that, there's like a 1-minute video kind of shows what it looks like.
Welcome home to the Boxable Casita, where you can live large for very little. Your Boxable Casita arrives complete right out of the box, with a full-size shaker-style kitchen, huge fridge, dishwasher, oven, microwave, a tall window right over the sink, and an adorable breakfast bar for 2. And behind this contemporary sliding glass barn door, you'll find a full-size bathroom with a shower, tub, a backlit mirror over the glass vessel sink, and a whole lot of drawers for storage. Everywhere, we'll keep you warm or cool with included heating and air conditioning and the mood right with dimmable LED lighting over the tall 8-foot windows under the even taller 9-foot 6-inch ceiling. We've obsessed so much over the details that even our outlets have integrated USB plugs for your electronic convenience. Enjoy all these great features with a home priced at a remarkable $49,500 or only about $250 per month, and ultra-low utility bills on average of about $28 per month. And when you're ready for a little more room, we'll be ready with more bedrooms, more living room, and even a second story. Boxables are built tough with precision, from steel and concrete, and are pretty much everything proof. Boxable, dedicated to providing homeowners with greater freedom by lowering the ownership costs with a home designed to the highest standards of quality, strength, and sustainability to last for generations.
Thanks, Lawrence. They are currently installing these units at on the Baghdad mine, or employee housing there. They are stacking them there so that they're basically a two-story studio on top, studio on the bottom, stairs on the exterior. So, but that unit that was next to the bathroom door, which I think is cool, looked like a dryer. It's actually a washer dryer combo. You put your clothes in, it washes it, and then you don't need to take it out and it dries it. So we'll have its own washer and dryer as well.
And how many of these are we doing?
10. One with the American Disability Access, the parking will have that access, the hand railing, washroom, restroom facilities will have that. You can specify that. The price they're charging in this quote is $81,200 per unit, so they have a little profit margin as a distributor in this area. We do know that we've had questions with Yavapai County with water. We know there's water in the Stewart area. We believe that if we work really closely with them, hydrology studies is right here in the cost summary, that it will be installed correctly at this point. We believe that if there's a problem, we may, I guess the term would be brace for a change order if we're under unforeseen conditions, but I think we have to accept that with some of these projects. There is a bit of an unknown there, but the district has schools right in that same area. They've never been completely flooded in the forever. Schools have never been forever.
No, not completely flooded. There's parts of the campus that are not necessarily, they have nothing to do with that. They're just drainage issues, but nothing flooded.
So it'd be cool to see 40-foot piers down with an elevation 10 inches above, but that's not quite good.
And this ongoing services, they're basically just as their subcontract?
Well, they have the, I guess you could say, almost like a franchise situation with Boxable, with that company.
Okay,
It is going up, I guess, throughout the country.
okay.
The design of the compressed foam walls is a nationwide company. They're the licensed authorized dealer from the Vegas facility. So they would be able to install the warranty. And they're a reputable construction company and an engineering company. And I can show you these if you'd like to see them, kind of the layout. And they do mention that, this is kind of a big picture, did you come up with small?
I didn't.
So if you'd like to see this, we put maybe two of these will fit, one at this end, one at that end, but they're quite large. I think they're almost 3 feet wide. I'll take one down there for everyone.
So one of the things that, and I had this discussion with Mr. Sheriff today, one of the things that we're gonna have to make sure that we do is in the RFP,
Fortunately, I've seen this before, so go ahead.
they're required to follow the rules of the town building code along with construction of with the county, they have a septic system that they have to put in. So all that has to meet the requirements, and it's in the RFP that they have to meet the requirements of those jurisdictions to move forward.
So on top of the 81,200 per unit, we also have to have all of the plumbing and.
There's gonna be dirt work because of the flood issues. They're gonna have to do the dirt work. There's gonna be, the 81,000 doesn't include the foundation. So there's foundations, there's septic, there's water, there's electric, there's fire lane, there's,
Landscaping.
there's a variety of things that are required.
48 tons actually of landscaping costs.
Again, just as John knows, and about this, so I did go through extensively the contract that was sent out to you all yesterday, and all the components of a subdivision that need to be in there are reflected in the contract. Whether it's sidewalks, curbs, drainage, landscaping, speaking as an engineer, I'm very happy with what I've seen. And if you look at the site plan, these are small units, but because of their placement, we've got spaces for increasing. If this goes on in the future, we could do this again and again if these units prove useful.
And the way they constructed the fire lanes, it'd be easy to extend those fire lanes up each side.
Right.
And build more units in the between.
Then you could duplicate this twice. the way I looked at it.
And we're only required to have one ADA assessment.
Well, we're actually not required. It's one of these things where it's kind of a catch me. Like there's courthouses in the country that are 130 years old and they don't have ramps. They're encouraged now, if we spend any federal dollars or any government dollars, to meet that standard. So you have 1 in 20 ramps instead of 1 in 12 ramps and things. Because it's still public land. But I think to please the city and give them what they're after and kind of meet their code for subdivision, would that be what you describe it as, Chris, that we're trying to meet their code and requirements?
Yes.
After the meeting? To do that, we definitely want at least one with ADA access and
Yeah, because we
accessibility.
don't want to have to go back and look at them.
No,
Yeah.
we're covered this way.
And one of the things that also has occurred within the past week, we've received the documents to apply for the matching grant, which is through Yavapai and Coconino counties. And part of that is this money that is part of the grant is actually ESSER funds, so which is federal funds. And so we want to make sure that we're in line. I know we have a SAM.gov information that we have to provide, which is a federal grant information. And so that's important that we can show that we're, making an effort at least to make it inclusive to everybody.
People that get slapped with lawsuits for non-ADA compliance usually lose, so we don't want it, just to put that.
What are the requirements to live there?
So that will be something that you will need to determine between now and when these are completed, which could be as early as August. I think that's being hopeful, but who knows? I see this as transitional housing. This is not meant to live in for years and years. It's meant to bring somebody in, let them get on their feet, and maybe move to, find a place that they can make a forever home or at least a while they're here home. And so I'm thinking maybe 2 to 3 years max.
And then do they also paint?
There's going to be rent.
Okay.
And part of the financing, so a portion of this, we think can be paid, we know can be paid using adjacent waste funding. So that will pay for part of it. In addition to that, John and I have been having conversations, and I know he did some initial investigation. We are trying to figure out an amount that we can finance. And then with the rents that we collect would be used to pay for that financing payment. So it would, basically we want it to help pay. It's not gonna 100% pay for itself, but to pay for itself as much as possible. I like the rents that we're collecting. And we were talking, I threw out $500 a month to somebody, they thought that was ridiculously low. But we want to, we don't want to subsidize. We don't want to subsidize, but we want to make it affordable. That's, there will be rent. We will take it out of people's paychecks. There was a concern that makes it sound like company housing. Well, that's kind of what this is company housing. And then at the same time, we want it to be nice. We want, there'll be upkeep associated with this, that the facilities department will have to do. There'll be people moving in and out. There'll be, upkeep that we have associated with that. But we will be landlords. The district will become a landlord. And so we'll work with our attorney. This is not new to a school district. Did you live in company, in school district housing, or did you drive every day in Baghdad?
That was company housing, yes.
Yes.
Right.
So, Baghdad does it. It's, we have a former Yavapai County superintendent lives up in Cedar or works in Cedar. There's school district housing there, so this is nothing new. We have lots of resources. Our attorney can work on this, come up with we have a lease, everything else. And we'd have to come up with board approved criteria that would establish who has, if anyone has, a precedent or has a preference in selection. And it may be just a random lottery people put it. So that would be something that we have to have a discussion on later.
Well, this is something that makes me happy. I think it's a good thing. It's just one more tool to get some qualified teachers here. That's awesome. This is an action item. if someone
I would like to make that motion.
I think you do it.
I will move on agenda item 10A, that we approve a contract with Pronghorn Services to construct 10 staff housing units in accordance with District RFP 22-WFHSBCSA.
Second on the floor, motion made, all in favor? Aye, thank you. Last agenda item for the evening is item 11A, and it is the first reading of revised policies.
So, just a little bit of a procedural issue that I want to share with you. There are 5 exhibits, a regulation and a policy. So a policy are things that you all approve, and that is kind of an overarching, tells us kind of what we should do. Regulations are the procedures on how to implement policies. Exhibits are forms that are associated with the regulation and or policy. Okay, by our policies. The only thing that a board has to approve is a policy that's done through 2 readings. The superintendent can approve exhibits and regulations. I make the practice of typically bringing those things to you. And so I can't remember the last time that you guys didn't approve a regulation or an exhibit. But it can happen, and I don't have to, but I choose to. We'll do 2 readings with this. We could approve the exhibits and the regulation. I want to hold that off. There's some of these that don't apply to us. For example, there's an exhibit on library materials selection and adoption. It does not apply to us the way that we have our libraries structured. That does only apply to us if we have certified librarians. So we don't need to have that exhibit because it doesn't apply to us. And so, there's 1 or 2 other things that I want to, that I'll look at, that I'll kind of pull out at the next meeting. But right now, I just want to kind of give you that heads up. That's what's going on. There's only 1 policy that really is subject to the 2 readings, but we're just going to do 2 for all.
Any questions or comments or discussion on that one? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Have a great night, everyone. Send these questions over email. So we're putting on a different